Happy Thursday, y'all. How you doing? How you doing? Let's see. Feliz Quinta. Yay. Still practicing my Portuguese. I was actually doing a lesson a little bit before the live. I want to say hello, see who is here. Hey, 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 it is Thursday. And who is first in the chat today? Kay Renee. Hey, girl, hey. Hey, Tanya, how are you? Good to see you. Good to see you. We are in for a treat today. Frederica, how are you? Well, Frederica, when you coming? I keep hearing you coming. When you coming? When you coming? Hola from Charlotte, North Carolina. How's the weather there? Because I've been seeing pictures from New Jersey from some relatives that were there. I saw some snow on the ground. The other day here, I went to the beach. It was like 71, so I took advantage of that. But today wound up being very cold. And by cold, it was 61. But it was cold and rainy, so we stayed in. Hello, girlfriend day today. October. Okay, okay, okay. Yay, yay, yay. Awesome. Greta's in the house. The ABX girl. Hey, hey, hey. Rain tomorrow. We had rain today. What? 80 in Dallas? Wow. Is that normal? Is that normal? I don't know. Jess says, hey, 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 everyone. Wow. Yeah, it was about 61, 63, but it was very windy. I had to bring my pillows in and cloudy and rainy on and off today. Tomorrow, I don't think there's rain in the forecast, which is a good thing, but it doesn't look like there's going to be any beach weather anytime soon. Maybe for like the next week or so, but that's okay. Look, I'll take it where I can get it. Yes. Oh, we have one of our YouTube channel members in the house, the Luxury Bucket List. Hello, hello, hello. Thank you for joining. Yes. And you too should be like the Luxury Bucket List and join our YouTube membership. And somebody might be watching this in the future, even present, and be like, who is this? And why should I join? So I am Krishan Wright. I'm the founder of Blaxit Global and the host of the Blaxit Global podcast. Blaxit Global exists to empower and inspire members of the African diaspora to pursue a life abroad, like I am, because I am joining you from my home in Lisbon, Portugal. Yay! Can y'all believe I'm almost 6 months in? Like I think next week. Yes, next Saturday. I'm pretty sure. No, next Saturday makes 6 months since I left the States. Next Sunday makes 6 months that I've been living in Portugal. Wow. Oh my goodness. Oh, Jess, you're so sweet. Thank you. But yeah, 6 months. I'm coming up on 6 months. So I guess maybe not next week, maybe the following week we'll do like a little anniversary thing and I'll share what I've learned. Maybe if that's interesting. Maybe I'll do something. I don't know. But in any event, I'm glad you all are here. So there's a new episode of the Blaxit Global podcast coming out on Monday. So be sure to tune in. Hopefully you're already following the podcast. Have it on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Please, if you would be so kind as to leave a rating and review of the podcast. 5 stars, please, because it helps people find our content and grow. So another incredible episode coming for you on Monday. But if you are a member of Blaxit Global Passport, our private community, or a YouTube channel member, you'll have that episode tomorrow and before the rest of the public. So hope you will enjoy that. Yes, just the months they are a-flying. And in the past, when I was preparing for my move abroad, many years, right? I was like, ooh, hurry up, time. Speed it up. Now that I'm abroad, I'm just like, ooh, I want things to slow down. Like, And also, I tend to lose track of the days. So I'm like, okay, I'm easing into it. But sometimes I'm like, where did the week go? And like, please slow down. Like, I want to revel in this time and enjoy, the people I'm meeting, the things that I'm learning, the food that I'm eating. Some good food. So it is definitely here. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate it. I love doing the podcast. I can't believe, I think, no, next week we're not halfway through the season. I think the episode after that will be about halfway. We're going to have, I think, I might have told you guys already, but we're going to have a slightly longer season of the podcast to make up for the longer hiatus that we had last year because I had to move. So we'll have more episodes this year. So hopefully you will tune into all of them and enjoy. So without further ado, tonight I have a special guest. Yay! And we're still celebrating as we should always, right? Because it's Black History is Every Day of the Year month. We are going to talk about the continent tonight. Now, some of y'all already know our friends, our Black Utopia, and our friends at Exodus Summit have been living it up on the continent the past like week and a half. Sadly, I could not join them because residency card has not arrived. But I've been enjoying the content, as I hope you are watching on Instagram or Facebook. And as soon as that residency card comes, look, it's going to happen because I've been trying to get to the continent since 2020. This is going to be the year. So, I figured to have a great discussion about the continent, I wanted to talk to someone who has a fascinating story and journey. And so, without further ado, I'm going to bring up Mr. Jay Cameron. Hey, 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 Jay.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. So glad to be here. Thank you for having me, and thanks to everyone joining in. Yeah, we're gonna have a great discussion. I'm looking
Yeah.
forward to it. And I got to get over there to Portugal. I have not been to Portugal yet, so that's on the list. That's not a bucket list item. That's on a must-do 2024 item.
Hey, hey, hey. That's awesome. I'm excited. Yes, I need to get to the continent. You need to come to Portugal, but hopefully it'll happen at the right time.
At the
Meaning,
right
I
time.
will be here when you visit and not on the continent.
Well, we got to get you to the continent. We have to get you
Yes,
there. That is the deal.
exactly. Exactly. And so one of the things that struck me about, because we've had a conversation prior to this conversation, but I wanted to give you an opportunity first off, before we even dive into that, to introduce yourself to our audience, and then we'll talk more about the continent. So you can take it away.
Sure. All right. Well, my name is Jay Cameron. I'm the CEO and founder of Maximum Impact Enterprises, which we focus on travel. We focus on education about the African diaspora. And what we do is bridge the gap between Africa and the African diaspora. And we do this through our children's book series, our travel experiences. We don't call them trips, they're travel experiences, our YouTube channel and other social media platforms. And that's what we do. We just, our goal is to dispel a lot of the negative narratives and myths that we've been taught about Africa and African people and people of African descent, and just to tell a broader story and tell it from our perspective. So that's what we do, and that's why I'm so excited about it, and that's why I'm shouting it from the rooftops, letting people know what's going on the continent.
Yes, as you should, because there's been, like you said, a lot of miseducation, misinformation intentionally. Uh, and as we start to educate ourselves and have more dialogue, to have, our own personal experiences. And one thing that I talk about on this channel, especially since I'm now nearly at the 6-month mark, is the process of deconditioning from the things that I've been exposed to or conditioned to believe about myself as a Black woman, or about the continent or many different things in the world, about different people. And that deconditioning process, I feel, aids people as they start to move about the globe wherever their heart calls them.
That's right. That deconditioning process is real. I didn't even
Mhm.
you don't even realize that you've been conditioned. That's the thing. I didn't even know how conditioned I was, that I needed to be deconditioned, decolonized, deconstructed and reconstructed. But the thing is that when you start traveling, you begin to understand how that conditioning process occurred. Because when I
Mm.
go back, and this is something I talk about a lot of times, is when I first started entering into the education system in the United States. First
Mm.
thing we did in elementary school, first grade, we stood and we pledged allegiance to the flag. Didn't understand anything about the flag. Just our teachers told us, this is what we do. Stand up, look at the flag, place your hand on your heart. And we began to recite the Pledge of Allegiance. But what was I pledging allegiance to? I didn't
Mm.
understand. And I didn't even question it. You're 6 years old, 5, 6 years old. I'm questioning. You don't even think to, because, they say this is what you're supposed to do. So part of that nationalism indoctrination led me to believe that I was in the best place that I could possibly be in the world, the United
Mm.
States. There's no
Yeah.
place that's better. We have everything that's perfect. The rest of, I don't know if you remember the old Neil Diamond song, "They're coming to America
Yes.
today." You know, and I used to sing that song, not even realizing that that was a part of the indoctrination, thinking that
Mm.
everybody wanted to come to America.
Yeah.
They were running from their homelands to get there. And then never did I hear a song talking about the people that were leaving America and going to live in Portugal. It was always, they're coming to America. Now, this is not to say that America doesn't have good things and it's a bad place, and meaning that everything about it is bad. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is that the conditioning had me to where I didn't really have an interest in going too far outside of what I was, kind of trained to believe was the best place in the
Mhm.
world to be. So why would I want to go, especially why would I want to travel to Africa with all of its problems and all of its challenges, and everything, every sickness in the world supposedly comes out of Africa. Everybody's sick and everybody's hungry and everybody's in need of rescuing from the great American dream, all of these things that I thought. So I was like, why waste my money and go to the continent? Because surely there's nothing there. But we know
Mm.
better. We know better now as we get more information and we start to see the different stories. And so, to kind of bring you up to speed a little bit, I spent most of my life with no interest in traveling to anywhere on the continent of Africa. And anytime I heard about Africa, it was either someone was going on a missions trip or there was some sort of charity effort. Somebody needed some sort of, go take them and, feed them the little porridge out of the bowls. And so
Mhm.
that was what I saw, because growing up, late night infomercials, that's what they said, send $30 a month and you'll help little so and so in the backwoods of Sudan. Not even in the
Mm.
woods. I'm sorry, an area where they don't have water. You can send $30 a month, and you can provide water for these children and this family. Now, that's not to say that that does not exist. It does
Mhm.
exist. But what they would do is take that story and
Mhm.
blast that story to millions of people, and you would see that same recurring story over and over and over. And then in I think it was 1985, 84, 85, when We Are the World came out.
Yes.
And you had
Yes.
all the big stars, and there
Yes.
comes a time when we heed a certain cause.
Oh, I was
So
gonna get singing tonight. Okay, Jay, I see you.
I got a little surprises here and there, little surprises. So, so
I guess your CD's gonna be available.
what I'm saying. So I'm looking at it, it was USA for Africa.
Mhm.
And I remember one day, all the radio stations around the world, in the US, I should say, stopped. The country stations, rock
Yeah.
stations, R&B stations, they all stopped and they played this song. I think it was
Yeah.
like at noon. So
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
narrative was that USA for Africa. Now, didn't break it down into all the different countries in Africa. It just said Africa.
For
So
Africa.
again, there was no internet in 1984, 85. Not
Yeah.
that we used. There were
Yeah.
no cell phones. Not
Mhm.
that we used. And so all we saw was what was put in front of us. Here it is. The pictures you see, and of course, everybody loved. That was when Michael Jackson was at his prime, and even
Yeah.
Lionel Richie was still popular, and
Mhm.
Huey Lewis in the news, and everybody. So you're thinking to yourself that this is what Africa is.
Yeah, I remember the
These
commercials. You
people.
brought me back with the commercials with Sally Struthers, I think, and then
I
the
want to go.
kids with the
Yeah,
distended bellies and flies, and so the subtext, right, was, "Hey, you should be happy that you're here." Right? Because if you're over there, you don't want to be over there. This is what it's like for you. You shouldn't want to go home. This is almost like this is what we saved you from. And people without color will tell you six different ways to Sunday that, oh, we've done great things for Africa, but you omit all the things that you did to Africa and Africans, including bring us here.
yeah, by force.
Yes.
And that's but that ironically, when you say that, I've heard those without color say that, and I've heard our folks say the same thing. Say,
Mm.
the best thing that could have happened, slavery was good for us because we
Mm.
were able to get out of Africa. When I heard it, I said, oh my goodness. I said,
Ooh,
wow. I said, whoa. I said, you talk about the deconditioning.
yeah.
You talk about the mental gymnastics and the mental games that have been played. When you know our culture in the US has been given so many different names. We were called colored, we were called Negro, we were called Black, then we were called African American. And this is all defined by someone else. Someone else
Yeah.
gave us these definitions. Even the term, this is going to shock a lot of people. Even the term African is even given
Mhm.
by someone else. And so,
Mhm.
for those of us who descend from the continent and who are really kind of like a hybrid of ethnicities, but if you look at our genetics, we're largely African, and when I say
Mhm.
that, continental. And then, of course, we have this other, these other mixtures in there with the indigenous, and then we have the European side, based upon what was happening with that slave trade. That's not everyone, of course, but that's largely
Mhm.
what a lot of people who are descend from that. That's what our genetics look like. So we, so with that, we come into this land.
Mhm.
Our education, we're trained in the European system. So remember, it's not even an African centered system. And if it were, anything that was referenced about Africa was negative.
Yeah.
They did everything to alter our features. So that's why you have a lot of the skin bleaching going on in Nigeria.
Mhm.
And a lot of people don't realize how deep it is into Jamaica. Now, if we went through it here in the US too, just
Mhm.
alter anything that had anything to do with African features, African anything, get rid of it,
Mhm.
because that's supposed to be bad. It's demonic, it's bad, it's horrible, it's sick. And so the wild part about it is that much of that is what they do to black neighborhoods in America now. The hood. Don't
Yep.
go to the hood, because guess what? There's corruption there, it's crime there, it's sickness there, it's the property values are lower. So don't go to those areas. So when I
Mhm.
started traveling, I started seeing the similarities in the narratives. So
Mhm.
wherever melanated people were, there was some sort, and the more melanin, the more negative the narrative. The
Yeah.
more, so you stop and you say, well, why is it that, eh, why are the property values higher in the areas with less melanin than the areas with more melanin? So
Mhm.
you see this all over the world. They're even
Yeah.
trying to gentrify the continent of Africa based on that.
Mhm.
So, so you now if I'm sitting in America, I'm seeing the world through a United States point of view, meaning I see the world through the lens that I grew up with, a Black
Mhm.
American male. All right, this is how I see the world, without understanding that the same thing that I deal with in the United States, it's the same thing people are dealing with in Brazil, same thing they're dealing with in, I'm sure they're dealing with it in Portugal.
Mhm.
find any of the France and the UK. And so what traveling did for me was it opened my eyes to how deep the rabbit hole went and what
Mm.
in the rabbit hole. And when I started going around the continent, it was when I went to Ghana first in 2018. I went to Ghana because I didn't want to go to a country that was so contemporary and so familiar to the US where I could I felt as though I was going to miss out on something. I was like,
Mm.
let me go to Ghana because it was the perfect balance. I wasn't ready for the bush. I wasn't ready for I knew I wasn't ready. I knew I was culturally immature. I
Mm.
knew that I needed to go somewhere where, okay, I don't want it to be too modern, but I also
Mm.
don't want it to be too bush. I guess that's the best way to
Yeah.
say it. So
And that
I
takes a
went to
level of self-awareness.
Oh yeah, I was very aware. I, I knew. I said, if I don't do this the right way, I'm going to miss out on something. So Ghana was
Mm.
perfect. It
Mhm.
gave me the what I needed in order to. So I wasn't distracted with my accommodations. Accommodations were perfect, but it had enough of the traditional to where I could see the remnants of the indigenous. So I could see the Fanti people. I could see the Akan people. Well, the Fanti are part of the Akan. I could see the Ewe people. I could see the Ga people. I could hear them speak their languages. And it wasn't just them speaking. They weren't, I mean, they know English because the British imposed English on them and in their educational system to the point where some children would actually be whipped for speaking their local languages instead of speaking their traditional language. So if they spoke their traditional language in school, they would get whipped if they didn't speak English. So
Mm.
this is oh yeah, this so it gets deep. That's what I'm saying. It gets deep. But the
Mm.
beautiful part about it is this is that I began to see more similarities than differences in the stories. And I began
Mm.
to see, they tell us the narrative, oh, them Africans don't like us. If you go over there, they don't want you to come. That wasn't my story. I went and the people were exceptionally nice and they
Mm.
were very helpful, so much to the point where I was like, wow, I know a lot of people in the United States who are not wanting to come here because they think y'all don't like us. They don't even, most of them don't even know our story. They
Wow.
don't
Yeah.
know the depth of it. They don't know our story, but I'll even, this is the thing where, because I heard some people say over the years, they said, well, I don't understand how they don't know our story. They don't understand what happened with slavery. They don't understand. I said, but we don't know their story.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah. Misinformation goes both ways.
and colonization and slavery are bedfellows. They are twin
Yeah.
brothers. One is just where someone comes and kidnaps you and takes you from the house. The other one
Mhm.
is where it's a home invasion and they take over the house and
Mm.
change the rules of the house, change the culture, change the language in the house. So we're dealing with the same thing just from a different perspective.
Mhm.
And so that's just part of it. But then what I began to find fascinating was the resourcefulness of the people, because I'm thinking, oh, these people are poor and oh, they need me to
Mhm.
come and bring my American education and my American, my
Mm.
Americanism on them, and I need to come on over here and show y'all the right way to do this thing. I need to. What I realize is
American
that
exceptionalism and savior complex.
I realized I was a black colonizer. I said I need to go sit.
Mm.
I need to go sit down somewhere and learn from these people and respect their culture and not come
Yeah.
over here with my colonized eyes, looking at them like they need me to come improve them. And because that's what colonization did. Colonization
Yeah.
came in, said, we're going to change you, we're going to alter you. But the way you're
Mhm.
doing it is wrong. And if you can convince somebody, if you can convince somebody that the way that they are naturally, the way they are as people, their culture is wrong, if you can convince them of that and to have them to start doing what you want them to do, then this is what you see happening around the world, in many cases. So with all of that, what it did for me was it helped me to become even more proud of
Mhm.
who I am as a, if you want, Black American man, African American man, African descendant man. I am so proud of every ounce of melanin. I'm proud of all of my African features. I am proud of every aspect. When I go on the continent, I love the fact that I can claim both. I can claim where I am on the continent as well as what my ancestors did in the United States. You know,
Yeah.
it's like I know I have ancestors in the US who bled and died for me to have the ability to travel the world and to see all of this. And I know that I have ancestors on the continent who died fighting against this. You know, when you learn about the Mau Mau, you learn about all these different, you learn about the concentration camps that the British had in South Africa and Kenya.
Mhm.
And then you find out what the Germans were doing and what the French were doing and what the Belgians were doing. And you begin to understand even the Portuguese and how the Portuguese
Mhm.
came in, how the Danish were there. I mean, then we won't even talk about the Arabs coming in from the East and what they
Yeah.
were doing and how they basically came in and decimated the continent. But even with all of that, the people are so resilient. And you
Mhm.
go and you see them in their natural flow of how everything is. And you just stop and you say, wow, I descend from this place. And
Right?
I'm, yeah,
Right?
it's something, it's something that there's nothing anyone can do to make me feel ashamed of my
Mhm.
African roots. There's nothing, and I know all the challenges. I can go into a whole story about the challenges and the cultural challenges. I recognize all of that because you're going to have that when wherever you have people, you're going to have cultural challenges. But there is nothing when my family wouldn't want any association with Africa. They would say, "No, we're not African. We're black." And
Mm.
I'm saying, well, okay, well, we're American. Well, what's American? And please explain to me what that is, you know? And they get
Mm.
stuck because it's kind of like, well, this the land my people were born on. I get it. I understand. We're proud of that too. But I understood that to become a global citizen like you, to become a global citizen, I didn't want to be limited
Mhm.
in just being from America. It's
Yeah.
like now I can embrace Sierra Leone. I'm a dual citizen of Sierra Leone because it was proven that I descend from Sierra Leone. So I have my green passport. I'm not limited.
Wow!
Oh
That's
yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. So I got the green passport with lots of stamps in it. I love when I love when I go to Nigeria and I go into the passport control
Mhm.
and they see my I use my green passport to go into Nigeria and they look at it. They say, "No, you are from Nigeria. We can
Mm.
look at you and we can tell that you have Nigeria. You are Nigerian." I said, "Look, I know I
Mm.
have a lot of Nigerian DNA. I mean, from this area, I know that." They're like, "No, you're Igbo. No. We can tell." I mean, I've had people in Nigeria argue with me about whether or not I'm from Nigeria, and everyone from Nigeria that I meet out and
Wow.
about, they say, "You do look like you're Igbo, for real, you do."
Mm.
And so, but guess what? If when you go to a place and the people who are there believe you are from there, and they see you, and it's like, and it, it's hard to explain. You have to feel it and see it for yourself. And I'm not trying to paint a picture. I'm not trying to romanticize this. I'm just trying to tell you, one from the perspective of having been told all of those years
Mhm.
negative things and then going and experiencing something very very
Mm.
different and so profound that it changed me in such a way that I said I have to share this with the rest of the world. I cannot keep this to myself. If I keep this to myself, that's like keeping like prize, like a treasure, keeping
Mm.
that and holding it on so someone else can experience it. So that's what happened from there. We started taking people over and they started having their own experiences, their own encounters.
Wow.
I watched people get married. I watched people move over there. I watched people. I was joking with somebody. I said, "See, you thinking you got to broaden your horizons. Got to look
Mhm.
outside of the box. You never know what you might find in other parts of the world." And I've seen other people from the African diaspora from the U.S.
Mhm.
actually they met for the first time in Ghana or South Africa or
Oh,
Tanzania,
yeah.
so it's bridging even the gap between us in the US. So yeah, so it's a fascinating experience. And
Mhm.
we got to get you to the continent. That's not, now you got me. I'm
Yes,
on a mission.
yes. No arguments there. No arguments there. So I love your story arc where, you went from not really being a traveler to having that first taste and experiencing in Ghana. And then, like you said about deconditioning and getting yourself to a point where you had to like take a step back and say, no, I need to be in a position of learning, not in a position of projecting what I feel needs to happen here, to then sharing that experience and bringing others, from the States and other places onto the continent to have their own experiences. So I'm curious, for people that travel with you and they're experiencing it for the first time, have they shared like they are feeling, or maybe if you could just share like some of the things that you just witnessed outside of like you were saying the weddings and things like that?
Yeah.
I'm curious.
Well, one thing I'll tell everybody is that on the YouTube channel, we have so many videos of
Mhm.
people sharing their experiences. And that's the thing. I've watched folks shed tears. They'll just start
Mhm.
recounting their encounter with the continent. And it's not, just to be clear, it's not all about slavery. That's one aspect of it. It's when you get to a place and you realize it's like that missing piece in your life.
Mhm.
You're living, you're like, there has to be more to this. I can't be just somebody who's going to just work, vacation every now and then, work weekend, football game, hairdresser, whatever, the same
Mhm.
routine every week. And
Yeah.
so when they got to the continent, wherever it was, every place that I've had the privilege of taking people to, they would have these moments and I would watch the tears flow. And
Mm.
as the tears would flow, I would go back to that moment when I first stepped foot in Ghana, and that was my first trip to the continent. And as soon as I put my feet on the ground,
Mhm.
it was like an awakening started to happen because I
Wow.
started riding around. I started seeing different things, meaning the culture, the
Mhm.
people. And so everyone else is having this encounter and
Mhm.
they, where they were fearful. Sometimes they're fearful before they come on the trip. Sometimes they're like, okay, do I need to get all of these shots? And what all do I need to do? I said, well, no, you don't need to get all of those shots. And where you do need a vaccine is you just need one. Like,
Mhm.
really? I was told that I need 10. My doctor said I need to get 10. Well, follow if your doctor told you that. But I said, I don't know many doctors unless you really have a lot going on. But what the country requires is one. That
Ooh.
particular one country. I said, many of the countries don't require anything at all. And they're like,
Wow.
really? So they're nervous. They're going through all of that. They're like,
Mhm.
well, I was watching this on the YouTube. I said, leave that YouTube alone. You watching every bad thing you can find. I said, pull up some stuff about the US. That might get you out of there a little bit faster. Turn up some of the stuff going on in the US and see which one, balance that thing out a little bit. So
Mhm.
they would come by the end of the first day, all of the anxiety, everything
Mhm.
they were fearing would be gone because they would look around and say, well, wait a minute. They're doing everything. They're living their life just like I'm living my life. They,
Mhm.
they, I, you mean to tell me they're not a bunch of savages running around here and in
Mhm.
in in loincloths and wow. And
Mhm.
they're nice to me. Oh wow, they have rooftop restaurants and they have wow international cuisine. You mean to
Yeah.
tell me I'm not going to eat the porridge out the
Mhm.
bowl? And so when they have that moment, it does something. It's like
Mhm.
returning to a home you didn't even know you had. For
Ooh.
so many, they didn't
Mhm.
even know that it was an option. They didn't know. Now again, this goes back to cultural maturity because,
Mhm.
if you're coming over and you're thinking, "Oh, I need to have it just like this, and I need to have that," and fruit. It's now some people have that going on. So it depends on where you go. There's certain places on
Yes.
the continent you can go, you get more fruit there than you have anywhere in the U.S.
So I've seen.
Yeah, you go to Stanton City in Joburg, you say, "Wow, look at this," So,
Mhm.
but it's like you watch these moments happen, And
Mm.
then what I love to do, so, if you go to Ghana, that's one experience. But then if you
Mhm.
go to South Africa, that's another experience. You go to Joburg, I was talking about Santon City and
Mhm.
Rosebank and some of the different places, but then you get a different story
Yeah.
right there in Joburg. Then you fly down to Cape Town and you see
Mhm.
the beach and the water, and you're like, what is this? This is like paradise. Then you hop over to Tanzania, and then you're in the middle of Serengeti, and you're like, this is a different
Mhm.
world. This is where the Lion King is, this is the Lion King. I'm seeing this
Mhm.
for myself. Then you hop up to Egypt and you see the pyramids, and you go down to Aswan in Egypt and you see the Nubian people. It's
Mhm.
just endless. The continent is endless. But if I listen to Sally Struthers, and if I
Mhm.
listened to those people who said that this place is an undesirable land, I would have missed out on all of these hidden treasures. And then I get on the plane and I go to I get off of the plane and I'm in Kenya. And in the queue to go to the passport, I'm one of two people with melanin in our
Mm.
skin in the queue going into Kenya.
What?
Think, think about that. Think about that. That's right.
Wow.
Think about that. So I'm in Kenya, and now of course, the people in Kenya are
Mhm.
melanated, but the people traveling to Kenya, I'm in Nairobi. It's 200
Mm.
people in the queue. Two of us have melanin. Now, this is not saying that we don't go because there's a large expat community. Or I should say, there is I don't want to say large. I say there's a nice sized expat community in Nairobi. But
Mhm.
when you look at who's traveling there, and I went to Tanzania during the height of COVID, and the Russians were all in Tanzania and Zanzibar.
Oh.
The Russians, the Germans, and the French. But we back home scared. We scared, y'all. We scared. I don't know
Mm.
if I'm trying to go over there now. I don't know because they say it's bad over there. But when you get there and you go down to Durban and you go to Cape Town and you're looking around, you're like, wait a minute now, y'all hiding the secret. You came and found it, and now you're hiding it from us mentally. And that's why
Mhm.
it's so important. That's what happens when people come, and that's why the tears flow, because they realize a great deception has occurred and they're free from it. It's like I can see with my own eyes. I don't need someone to interpret for me. I can see it for
Mhm.
myself. I got
Yeah.
it. And that's what
Mhm.
happens.
Ooh, and that's powerful, the great deception. And that's really what it has been. They've been playing in our faces for centuries. And now, thankfully, with the aid of technology, us being able to, take advantage of, I mean, look, American passport privilege. So we can go to these countries and have these firsthand experiences because that is the first part of being able to do that deconditioning process, to have that level of self awareness, to be in the position of learning. And I think that also starts the healing because we pointed out it's that like misinformation going both ways. It's like they haven't had exposure to what our lived experience is, and anything they have had has come from people without color and their tainted view of our experience, and only wanting to showcase you know their stereotypes, playing the stereotypes on both sides. And so that's why I love what you're doing because it is such an impactful and transformative experience that you literally have seen people go through when they journey there. So I want to. I see the chat has been lighting up, so I want to get over to some of these questions before we jump more into our conversation. Um, so let's see. So Pisces Pratt said, "Congrats, Jay, on your Sierra Leone citizenship."
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, and LaRonda says, I am of Sierra Leone descent as well. I look forward to visiting and getting my passport from that land. Yes, 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 yes. Uh, Monica asked, how did you confirm your ancestry?
Okay, that's a great question. And as a matter of fact, I think it was a LaRonda. And I see Monica's question here. What
Mhm,
I did was I've done all of the ancestry tests that are out there because
mhm,
I was just curious. and I've done ancestry.com, I've done 23andMe, but the one that was able to get me the citizenship in Sierra Leone is African Ancestry. And that linked me to the Timene people in Sierra
Oh.
Leone. And so I've taken a few of the African Ancestry. So this is going to be funny. You're about to really laugh in a second. So that was the first one that linked me to the Timene people in Sierra Leone. The other one linked me to the Mafa people in Cameroon. So the Mafa people in Cameroon. Now, the third one I took did not link me to Africa at all.
What?
It didn't link me to Africa. Yeah, they tell you that the test might not come back. If it only picks that one line, it takes one genetic line. One line. So each test you take, whether it's your mother's line, your father's line, or if you have another relative, then they can take another test to take a father. They can take you to another line. Well, remember what I was talking about earlier, as far as those of us who are part of the African diaspora in America and how we have that European component.
Yes.
So what happened in my particular case, my father's line, which only tested the paternal lineage, the only men, no women, not just the men going back 500 to 2,000 years, it led me to your country.
What?
And the country right next to it,
What?
Spain and Portugal. So yes,
No
I'm
way.
Spanish and Portuguese descent. In addition to, so
Wow.
that's another reason why I got to get to Portugal. So that's how.
Yeah.
So I have a
Look, you
duty
might be
now.
collecting another passport.
Hey! If it works out, I'll get it for sure. But the thing is that's how I did it. So African Ancestry is how I was able to get my Sierra Leonean passport, because they have they've been working with the Sierra Leone government and President Bio. And so that started back in 2021, at the tail end of 2020. And that's how I was able to do it. I jumped right on it when the opportunity came, because I understood that by having that ECOWAS passport, it would give me the ability to travel to any countries that are a part of it's the economic something of West African states. It's like 13 or 14 different countries that I could travel to who participate in that. Now, recently, Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger, I think they left
Okay.
ECOWAS because they're trying to get away from some of the colonial influence. But outside of that, Nigeria, Ghana, Togo, Benin, I've been able to travel all throughout West Africa, and
Wow.
as a result of without needing a visa because of that passport. So it's a good thing to have. And Sierra Leone is a beautiful country.
Wow. I've had this desire, like if I had my dream of dreams and what could happen, would be for countries in the continent to which we as African Americans, Black Americans can, trace our lineage. And like for me, I'm sub-Saharan African. So there's all of these different countries because look, those people without color came in and just sliced and diced and said, you get this piece, you get that piece. But for us in present day, I think part of the healing that can happen is by being able to obtain citizenship in the countries that we have ties to, because other people can do that for their ancestry. And for many Black Americans, especially if they've had, descendant upon descendant that have been here, and it's harder to trace, their original ancestor, but they can, trace their DNA to a particular region, that they should be able to obtain citizenship, because we need to reconnect those through lines. And I think that the fact that those through lines were altered and severed in some cases really contribute to a lot of what we experience today in America. Because there
Agree.
is this, that's part of this whole Blaxit movement, is um, this conflict between who we know who we are to be true, and then the influences of the dominant society, and wrestling with that, whether it be in schools where I just saw that the Supreme Court ruled against the young man who was wearing his locks and, disciplining him. And now they're saying, oh, well, you know what, that wasn't a violation of, discrimination or his rights, or going in the workplace and having microaggressions or worse, and or dealing with the police and things like that. And so when we look at who we are as a people, we're a collective. But being in the United States, which is very individualistic society, there has been this like grappling of, okay, we want to be communal. And I find that when we travel the world, we tend to be in community with one another. But it's like when we go back to the States, for those of us that travel, it becomes a lonely endeavor to go through everything that we go through. And that breeds anxiety, that breeds, depression, it breeds isolation, and it contributes to a decline in mental health, not only just, in addition to physical health. And so I feel like I said, part of that restorative process is, deepening our connections to our ancestral motherland. And I think a pathway to that is through citizenship.
You're right, and it's very liberating. When I got my citizenship in Sierra Leone, I couldn't. It was liberating, from the standpoint of I knew I had options,
Hmm.
and when I say options, meaning psychological options, physical options, and
Mhm.
financial options as well, because I was not limited. Sometimes being a Black American, and I don't want to generalize, and I'm always very mindful of it, because we have our own cultures within, Black American culture. We are, New Orleans is very different from New York, and in LA, Black LA is very different from Philadelphia. So it's one of these things, though, that when you get outside of even the different cultures that we have in the U.S.
Mhm.
and discover that we don't have to stay within, like you talked about, the microaggressions,
Mhm.
the police brutality, the subtle, the lid that's not a lid, it's like this thing, the confusion, the conflicts, the internal conflicts,
Yeah.
even the things that we deal with within our own community and our own families with each other.
Yeah.
Some of the right, that's a whole nother conversation. So 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 when you get outside of that and you kind of say to yourself, you know what? I can be global. Just like you said, I'm in Portugal. I'm in Lisbon.
Mhm.
I'm about to celebrate 6 months. There's somebody else back in the States that's feeling trapped
Yeah.
because the culture they're in is fearful. You better not leave here. Something gonna
Yeah.
happen to you over there. Do you see all the things that's happening to me in America? Do you see you might have a $200,000 a year paying job, but psychologically, what is it costing you? How's it
Woo.
impacting your health?
Yep.
You might have all the trimmings and all of the greaves and all of all of this other kind of stuff going on, but then you're still trapped within the success. But
Yep.
sometimes when you get outside of it and your mind is free, because sometimes all you want is peace. Sometimes
Yeah.
all you want to do is to wake up in the morning and not have to.
Mhm.
You don't have to deal with the student loans. You don't have to deal with the. I'm just. I'm throwing
Mortgage
everything at the wall
company,
now.
all of that. Yeah. Yeah,
You
because
know.
you said it, like, people have these, high-paying job or whatever, right? Like, you have a job that you don't like, that you have to go to, right? You're resenting doing that, or all these bills, like, you're paying bills from the time the month start to the time the month ends, and riding the struggle bus, or you have these high paying jobs, or you don't have any connection to your family because you work in that job, you're married to that job, and that as a result your relationships suffer, and your health suffers. People that aren't sleeping, people are overeating, gambling, sex addiction, all the things. And it's a way to deal with existing. I won't even say living. It's just to be able to exist. And that is why when I started traveling in 2017, and I started to challenge myself, first I started in New Zealand, and I was like, okay, let me go to a country that speaks English first, but then started to, stretch. Each time I was going somewhere different, getting me more out of my comfort zone. That's where it was like learning about cultures, really learning and taking time to like undo and erase and challenge my own beliefs, my beliefs about myself, my beliefs about others, my beliefs about how the world sees me. But you can't get that just from a book, because oftentimes it's a book we didn't write. And that's what I think is so brilliant what you have been doing with your company and your platform is you're also, you're bringing people to the continent and they're having these experiences. But you talked about it at the top of our conversation with the children's books, because that is where it starts, particularly as we're having this conversation in 2024. And there is a crusade to take books out of the classroom, especially anything that refers to our culture. I just read today that in West Virginia, that lawmakers passed a bill, not yet a law, but it's still scary, to prosecute librarians for having banned books. It's like, America
Well,
girl, you in trouble.
yeah, it's the same tricks they've been playing all along. That's what I'm saying. When you get outside of this bubble, you understand that the country of the United States is a corporation. It's a business. That's all the
Mm-hmm.
U.S. is. It's a business. It's a capitalistic structure designed to make a profit. Its
Mm-hmm.
currency is its military capacity. It's not even the U.S. dollar. So the currency of the United States is its ability to go around the world and to dominate from a military standpoint. And see, it gets a little deep. See, start getting deep now. So, so
Look, I like going
hey,
deep.
hey, so that's what I see. When
Mm-hmm.
I'm going around the world, the largest embassies in these countries are the United States embassy,
Yeah.
except in Cuba. Except in Cuba.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so you look and you say, now, why is the U.S. embassy the largest embassy here, even in some of those francophone countries? So
Yeah.
you begin to understand the corporate structure of the U.S. and what the role my people played in it. My
Mm-hmm.
people were only supposed to be the laborers in this country to build the
Mm-hmm.
wealth. We were
Yeah.
never designed to have the wealth.
Nope.
That's the way the system is set. So when your education, if you educate people about the structure. So what we do, the indoctrination that I talked about, when we stood up and we would pledge allegiance, we would pledge allegiance to the flag of a country. We didn't
Yeah.
understand that we were pledging allegiance to a corporation. So we're
Mm.
standing there and we're saying, so now we're being indoctrinated into the cult of nationalism. The cult of
Mm-hmm.
nationalism has you to now function in such a way where you don't even question what's going on. Or if
Yeah.
you do question, you question from the standpoint of helplessness and
Yeah.
trying to figure out, well, how do I change this system? Then,
Mm.
if you don't put financial literacy in the education system to teach people about the corporation, then they say, well, the only way you can succeed in this corporation is if we load you up with all of these student loans that you'll struggle to spend 25 years to pay off. We'll earn
Mm-hmm.
all of that interest off of your free labor.
Yep.
So we take the chains off of you physically, but we put them on you financially. But then
Mm-hmm.
I could go down this. I go down a whole road. But you see this even on the continent, because guess who controls the education system on the continent?
Mm.
So now the reason why we're miseducated about each other is because the British control their colonial education system. You have the judges and the lawyers still wearing the black judges and lawyers still wearing the blonde colonial wigs from the British in the Anglophone countries. You
Mm-hmm.
have, when you go to the Francophone countries, you still see the currencies controlled by the French. So you see the
Yep.
CFA, which is controlled by the French. So now when
Mm-hmm.
you're seeing this, you're saying this is bigger than the United States. This is
Yeah.
global.
Yeah.
This is global. This is a whole system in place. And if we don't educate ourselves about it, we'll become frustrated. And then what happens is we won't know how to navigate it. So when people
Mm.
go and they begin to learn how to navigate it, so when they come back to the US, they say, okay, I understand what's going on here.
Mhm.
Okay, I understand the World Bank and IMF and how they can control a currency in a
Yeah.
country. They can devalue it when they want to. They can raise it
Mhm.
up when they want to. They can, they can do all of these things to manipulate a situation based upon the political structure that they have put in place.
Yep.
They put the French put the political structure in place in Cote d'Ivoire and Togo and
Mhm.
Benin. And so you go in Nigeria, the British put that political system in place that now is heavily influenced by the United States. And obviously you have, China and Russia coming in. But so with that said, though, to your point, in West Virginia, if they can start altering history and removing information,
Mhm.
and then if parents are not interested in learning any more than what they, if they're too focused on, paying the bills, and then they trust the education system because, I grew up with, my parents and grandparents trusted the education system.
Yeah.
So now we have more and more people saying we have to educate ourselves. We're going to create the content that's going to educate because the internet is here. And so now you get a lot of bad information out there, but now what we try to do is to create content so children can get the information, parents can
Mhm.
get the information, and then create experiences where no one can take once you like you're in Portugal right now, nobody can take that experience away from you. You know what it is you enjoy about Portugal. You know the Lisbon nightlife, you know what's going on, you know the vibe, and you know what that impression is made upon you in all
Mhm.
of your senses. Nobody can take that from you.
Oh.
But if you're in the backwoods of West Virginia, and I don't mean to say make it sound, like that, but let's take it to the backwoods of West Virginia. If you're in the
Mhm.
backwoods of West Virginia and your parents are trusting this West Virginian or Floridian school system
Mhm.
and trusting them to educate their children, and now they're removing things from it, this is how you get brown bodies with white minds and colonized minds
Yeah.
because someone takes the information away and someone doesn't replenish it with or information to contradict what's
Mhm.
being said. So it gets deep. It really does. But that's why we're here. That's why we're having this conversation. And
Yeah.
I know I can't see the chat, but I'm sure somebody's fired up in the chat
Oh,
without me
yeah.
even.
The woo, let me tell you, the chat is on fire.
I know
Let
it.
me Pisces Fred said, thankfully, my mom had children's reference books for me on Africa when I was young. So I never thought of our homeland as backwards or uncivilized. God help you if you only know what the US shows you. Yeah, it's been a campaign. Like I said, it's been a crusade, is how I see it. And Diana said, the truth is often hidden from us. My entire childhood, we were told our dark hair and eyes came from Native American source. Later, when I had my DNA tested, it was Africa that showed up. Yeah, I'm a big proponent. I did ancestry and I did 23andMe. I haven't yet done African ancestry, but I've heard, and you're like another source of someone who has used it. So one of the things that I need to get to, because I'm like, I need more precision, right? I
All right.
need
Yeah.
more
Take
precision.
me to my ethnic group. That's right.
Yeah. Angel said, wasn't there a strong historical African presence in Spain? I think one of Spain's leaders was of African descent. That I don't know. I
Oh
don't know.
yeah, oh yeah. Oh, there was one point in time where you had many of those because the only thing that separates Africa from the Middle East and from Europe is the Suez Canal, which is a
Mhm.
man-made canal that was built in the late 1800s. That's the
Mhm.
only thing that separates it. So
Wow.
you would have migrations from all over. And then
Mhm.
if you ever study the Moors and what the Moors were doing and that
Mhm.
part of the world, it is. I'm telling you, there is a fascinating history about those who were on the continent,
Mhm.
albeit very imperfect. Now, I don't want to romanticize this to make it seem like
Mhm.
everybody was doing right on the continent. People are people, so let's just
Yeah.
we go. People are people, but
Mhm.
what when you only get this thing about Christopher Columbus
Oh gosh.
discovering America, and then
Mm.
but that's what they taught us
Yeah.
and would grade us based upon that. So if we said, well, no, how could he discover something where people already existed?
Mhm.
Then now no, you're questioning what we're teaching you. So it goes
Mhm.
back to that indoctrination. And then when you go back to the
Yeah.
history of the United States education system and what it was designed to do, and where it even the origins of it. You see, when you start traveling, you begin to understand the
Mhm.
origins of things, why we do what we do. And that's why we have a lot of the battles, because somebody told us this is what we should do, but we don't
Yeah.
really know why we should do it. It's like,
Mhm.
well, who told us this? Where did this come from? I had a
Yeah.
moment when I discovered that most of the HBCUs were named after white people. That hit me hard. I was like,
Ooh.
yo, what y'all talking about? What you mean? How you mean
Mm.
they named after who? Who what?
Mhm.
And a lot of people don't know that. And then when
Yeah.
you start doing the research, and you say,
Mhm.
now this doesn't take away from the contributions of what people have
Mhm.
done, that those Black people have done, but you just kind of you start asking more questions, like, well,
Yes.
why?
Yeah.
Why were or the NAACP being co-founded with those who Joel Spingarn
Mm.
and these other white folks? You know what? Like, how? Why? What in the controlling the money up into the 60s? So when you start learning this stuff, and y'all can go
Yeah.
fact check everything I'm saying. I've been doing this a long time. Uh,
Yes, indeed. But you're
so
right. It's like
what?
you take the thread and you start pulling at that thread, and then you just unraveling it and unraveling it. And that's where it comes that awakening. And once you have that level of awakening and towards enlightenment, it's like you can't, like you were saying about no one can take this away from me, this experience. It's like once you have that and not that knowledge and curiosity and awareness, no one can take that from you. It requires that you start to strengthen that critical thinking skills that the U.S. has, because of the indoctrination has suppressed, right? They don't want critical thinking skills. And I've had these conversations with my mother many a times over the years. And I say, you can't, you being the United States, can't control a mass of people by allowing them to think critically. You control a mass of people by dumbing it down and having everybody toe the line, and then you just become a widget. And so I think that is what we're seeing now, is that there's a part of the consciousness in the collective that are awake um, and awakening, and then there is the people that right now are, in my mind, being still rocked to sleep. Sadly.
Willfully. You have those
Mm.
who are doing it, they don't know what's hell going on. They don't
Mhm.
know, but there are others who are like, they would stand up and defend everything that has occurred over
Mhm.
to the African diaspora in the US.
Mhm.
They would be our people would be the ones
Yeah.
standing up. Y'all can't talk about that. Y'all need, it wasn't that bad, and they sold y'all into slavery, well, I said, well, somebody had to make the purchase too, and this is this exchange here now. Let's
Mhm.
not, and we're not going to run away from that historical element either. But
Yeah.
you have this thing where it's called the cognitive dissonance,
Yes.
that when you're faced with a thought or a fact or a challenge to something that you have believed for so long, it's
Mhm.
now having to make the determination about whether or not I'm going to acknowledge,
Yeah.
okay, maybe I don't know everything and maybe I need to learn something new,
Mhm.
or I'm going to hold on to what I believe just because I believe it. It doesn't mean that it's right. I'm just going to hold on to it because it feels good to hold on to this thing. And that's what, again, the more you travel, the more difficult it is to hold on to unless you travel in a bubble. Now you can travel in a bubble. And
Mhm.
when I say that, meaning this is one area I realize a lot of people travel in the bubble. And this is what when I remember years ago, people want me to go to Africa and they were going on a missions trip. And
Mhm.
so the only thing they were doing was going and staying in with their cluster of people
Mm.
and going and taking whatever they were taking to somebody else, but they weren't going and learning from the people. They were
Ah.
going to try to change the people. So they were in a bubble within themselves to say, well,
Mhm.
I already have everything you need. I know it all. So you can't teach me anything because I'm bringing you everything. So if you
Mhm.
go around the world with that mentality and you don't go saying, I need to be, because what I realized I needed to be taught when I went to Ghana, when I go any place I go to, when I'm in Cuba, you
Mhm.
know how they demonize Cuba? When I'm in
Oh,
Cuba,
God.
I'm sitting there like, man, I didn't know anything about
Yeah.
the Taino people. I'm down in
Mhm.
Colombia and I go to Palenque, and now we go all over now, just so you know. We go to Africa and we go to all African diaspora places. I'm in
Mhm.
Palenque, and the people in Palenque look just like the people in Ghana. No
Wow.
different. They
Oh,
dance in
my
the
goodness.
same way. One speaks English, one speaks Spanish. And I'm saying to
Mhm.
myself, well, what is going on? Well, I go to Brazil and I went to Bahia and the city of
Mhm.
Salvador, and I'm looking at the people. They think I'm from there too, but they have a heavy Yoruba connection. Then you go to
Mhm.
Nigeria and you have the Afro-Brazilian community in Nigeria. You have the Afro-Brazilian community in Ghana.
Mhm.
Somebody got to tell me that if all of these bridges, all of this connection, Angola and Brazil, you
Mhm.
look and you say Mozambique and
Yeah.
Portugal. So now
Mhm.
you're looking at, because Portugal and Brazil, they're connected that way. Angola and Brazil, Mozambique, Sao Tome, Principe, Cape Verde. Those are all of your Guinea-Bissau. Those are all the Portuguese influences on
Mhm.
in Africa
Former
and then over in
colonies,
South
yeah.
America. Yeah, I
Mhm.
mean but I didn't know any of this before
Mhm.
2018.
Yeah. Yeah. Neither did I. And it was interesting that you made that point. Over the weekend, there's a group called Intercambio here, and it allowed, the group was fabulous. So a bunch of us rolled up, a lot of Black Americans, but we were able to do this language exchange with our brothers and sisters who were from different parts of the continent, many of whom were from former Portuguese colonies. And so, we spoke half of the time together in Portuguese, and then half of the time in English. So it gave them opportunity to practice their English, gave us an opportunity to practice our Portuguese. We played a game in Portuguese, and then one of the gentlemen did a presentation. He was from the Gambia and talked
Mm.
about, the Gambia, and then pointed to another gentleman who spoke from the same country but spoke a different dialect. And then they were just talking about that, and it was so, it brought a lot of joy to my heart. First of all, just to have, like, be more connected, like you said, getting outside of the bubble, and learning from their experiences and them learning from us. There was some woman that was there from Brazil, and I think that is, not just part of the healing, but that's where that cultural exchange is. Because if you wall yourself up into this bubble and just kind of have this expat experiences and either project or not even pierce what is on the other side, like, I want to have a very deep and rich experience here. And that means that's going to mean that I need to be uncomfortable. That means I'm going to say a word in Portuguese that might not make sense. But to be with my brothers and sisters, and then they're, helping me correct, and I'm feeling comfortable, they're learning from me. We're just having this fellowship with one another. It was so amazing. And I'm looking forward to going back next time. And so that's why I just want to, always be the one that's rallying for people. Get that passport, get out and travel, get uncomfortable, get comfortable with being uncomfortable, because that's where the magic is. That's where the connections happen. That's where the healing happens. And that's really where, like I said, for me, that's where the fun is. Like, I had a genuinely, I know Marguerite and some other people that were there were in the comments, that really was like the icing on the cake for me this past week. And I just, like I said, I think more people need to be able to have these experiences with one another.
I agree. You said that perfectly. And you got outside of the bubble.
Yeah, yeah, it's important. So Dr. Deborah Spear says, hello, I would love to know the steps to becoming an expat. You're in the right place. Do you have an advice on trusted resources? Blaxit Global.
There you
Um,
go.
I'm one. So you can find a lot of content on blaxitglobal.com. You listen to the Blaxit Global podcast. You can join our community, Blaxit Global Passport. We actually have a workshop that's taking place in about 20 minutes for people that are interested in moving to Mexico. And that's being facilitated by one of our former guests on the podcast, Michelle Wedderburn, who is the owner of Casa Elm in San Miguel de Allende. So we have accountability workshops, we have a men's group, we have a lot of content to help people get themselves out the door. Last year, we had 13 people from our group that moved abroad, 12, including myself, to Portugal, one to Thailand. And so far this year, we've had 2 members who have moved abroad, and both of them are in Portugal. And we have 2 more arriving in April. So this is, I get people out the door. So if you're looking for sources, and you come to the right place. Plus, you can book a one-on-one with me. There's links in the description of this video with a bunch of extra resources for you to support you in your journey. But good luck. Yes. And then I'll take this last one. So Belinda, has the time outside of Portugal extended to 6 months every year? You'd have to be more specific. I mean, if you're just on your regular visa, you can stay 90 days as a U.S. citizen, but then you have to be outside for 180. If you're on a residency visa, so I'm on a 2-year visa, I can't be out of the country more than 6 months within a 2-year period. So it is never every year. But that's what trips people up because they count. They count. So Jay, before we wrap, I want to talk about something else that you've done that has been magnificent. You know, you talked about bringing people to the continent, talked about the books, the children's books, but you also have created some content and documentaries. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, well, the first documentary was about Tanzania, and that's on
Mm,
Amazon Prime. It's also on our YouTube channel. But I went to Tanzania, climbed Mount Kilimanjaro. That impacted me, and so I wanted to go back and film a documentary about that landscape. And I went out into the Serengeti. We've been over to Zanzibar. A lot of people don't know Zanzibar is a part of Tanzania, but went to Zanzibar, went to Serengeti, and filmed that and shared it. Went out with the Hadza people. They're hunter-gatherer people that live off of the land. And so you get a chance to see that. You get a chance to see the epic battle, the
mm,
python versus a pack of hyenas. And so that was an interesting battle as well. And so it was a really fascinating story. So that's one. That's Tanzania. And then we're in the process now of filming my documentary. It's called Ghana, The Awakening. We filmed the Ghana side of it. Now we're about to film the US side of it. So that's going to be coming out in the fall of 2024. And again, both of these stories are powerful. But this Ghana one, I know it's going to resonate. I know it's going to hit so many people in a positive way because it's just going to connect. And again, children's books, that's one way to reach people, our children. But then the documentary is another way to reach those of us who may be a little older and looking for a little bit more depth in the understanding space. So we are able to give that through the visual side of
mm,
learning, and that's what the documentaries do. So I love telling stories. I mean, we've done a lot of mini documentaries on the channel. We
mm.
offer real conversations. I don't hold anything back. I say I'm too old to be, dancing around. I don't have anything to prove anymore. You get to a point you're like, who am I trying to impress? At this point,
Same.
you live for your
I'm
legacy.
about to be 50 in a few months. I get it.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
So it's like you're like, who am I trying to live for? I
Hello.
mean, who am I trying to impress? I don't care about. You used to worry about what people were going to say. It, you realize life is so short, and
Yes.
and you see how some made the most of it, some didn't.
Mhm. Yeah.
based upon each person's perspective. And
Mhm.
I just said I didn't want to be that person to be here and spend this time and know all of what I know, and not try to give as many avenues for people to get the information that was withheld from me most of my life.
Yeah.
And so that's why the documentaries are there. I'm sure we'll do some movies at some point. We're working on our academy, the Maximum Impact Success Academy. So that's going to have online, so it'll be international. Anybody in the world can
Mhm.
can participate in it, and it's designed to be able to share this information. For it's a
Mhm.
comprehensive family academy. So we'll talk about history, we'll talk about financial literacy, we'll talk about we'll cover life skills. I mean, so many different things that we just may not have been taught. And it's
Yeah.
a online resources coming in addition to all the documentaries. So that's what we're doing. And it all started with that one trip to Ghana. I
Wow.
go back to that. That
I love
one
that 'cause
trip.
look, that trip to New Zealand in 2017 started me on the travel bug, ultimately creating Blaxit Global in 2020. And so, for anybody who's watching this who hasn't, you know, taken advantage of that, like I said, that American passport privilege, get your passport, get a ticket, go somewhere, challenge yourself and stretch. And, like I think, like I said, this year is going to be the year that I'm going to the continent.
Somehow,
But
some way, you got to get there.
definitely do that. Like get involved, get in, whether it be Blaxit Global, whether it be connecting with Jay at Maximum Impact. And I dropped the link that you shared for the video here. Get in community because that is going to help you get from where you are now to where you want to be. So Pisces Pratt asked Jay, will the Gullah Tour be coming in 2024?
2025 is when it's coming, because it's actually we just finished scouting it. I'm Gullah Geechee. I'm proud Gullah Geechee. I'm from the low. I was born in Charleston, South
Low
Carolina.
country.
I got low country. I got my red rice, my boiled peanuts. I can talk the talk too. I know how to flow in the accent. I know how to do all of that. And
Yes.
so I'm looking forward to it, because all through there, Charleston, Beaufort, Savannah, it is going to be
Mhm.
one of the most comprehensive experiences that you will ever encounter. You're going to taste the food. You're going to learn about the Black history. They don't teach us. You're going to learn about it. And because I'm from there, it's like that. It's different. It's like, all right, this is my spot right here. This is it right
Mhm.
here. And just being among the people and just knowing it's I can't wait. So 2025 is coming. Gullah Geechee experience, Charleston, Beaufort, Savannah. Get ready.
Yes, I love it because my family's down there in St. Helena's Island, so I know that area quite well. I'm excited for that. So yes, yes, yes. I'm gonna take
Oh, you
this
you
last.
Gullah Geechee too? I think we talked. Did we talk about that?
We did talk about it. We did
We
talk
did
about it.
talk about
Yes,
that.
yes. Stories down there and family reunion. Well, not family reunions, but Thanksgiving is a huge thing. And yep, the family is down there on my dad's side. What will it take for the Blaxit knowledge, awareness, or message to go viral amongst African diaspora? There's a lot of great content creators, but the message appears to be customized. That's a great question. So to answer it succinctly, I think the challenge is that as content creators, right, we have this content, but it exists on platforms that we don't own and are largely owned by people that we've talked about, right? That have lots of money
Right. Right.
and that are people without color who like to suppress content that could create the awakening. And so I take a lot of pride in Blaxit Global being independent. And so I'm an independent podcaster. You see the mic here. Before the setup when I was living in New Jersey was in my bedroom or in my closet. And I rely on people watching the content, liking the video, which I hope y'all are liking this video, subscribing to my channel, Jay's channel. That goes a long way, as well as donations and support. But Blaxit Global, fortunately, since its inception, has been featured in numerous outlets, mostly owned by people without color. And so I hope that as the stories continue to be produced, like I said, next episode is on Monday, and stories and conversations like this get in the right hands and get illuminated, you guys have the power to make it go viral. Share amongst yourselves in your communities with people that you know could benefit from this information. And that's what beats the algorithm, right? And so I can only do as much as a content creator. I rely heavily on the people that consume the content to share it. And sometimes I hear in my community, in different places that I spend on the net, where people want to move in silence. And I get that. But from a content creator strategy, like I need to reach people so that they get this message. I don't do it just for fun. I do it because this is really important to have these conversations. And these are not the conversations you're going to hear on network news. These are not the conversations that you're going to read in different outlets like, Washington Post or whatever. They're going to come from independent people who take their time, their effort, their hard-earned money, and create documentaries like Jay and children's books and take people to have these experiences, or for me to dedicate time to have conversations with people all across the world. That's what's going to be the shift. And I think we're starting to get to this point, my feeling, in the US, where people are backing away from mainstream media and moving to independent content creators. But again, YouTube could shut this channel down tomorrow. Instagram could shut down my page, right? And that's why having Blaxit Global off of Facebook and having our own community and Blaxit Global passport allows me to show up in the way that is authentic and allows me to do the most work and the best work to get people, like I said, from where they are now to where they want to be. So hope that answers your question. All right. Let me just say, my friend Jay, I do need, yes, Dr. Linda, I do need to go to the continent. You are absolutely right. You are absolutely right. Thank you, Word Up Psychotherapy. I appreciate it. So, yes, and definitely was a lot of reaction to St. Helena's and going down, Geechee, Geechee. Yes, 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 yes.
I know you down there now. I can tell.
Yes, yes. Awesome. So, Jay, this was such a great conversation. I really appreciate you carving out time to have this discussion. I know it's so important. And I look forward to your visit to Portugal and then me making my way to the continent, but also for how you showed up here today to talk to our community.
Well, thank you for inviting me and allowing me to share my story. And I'm looking forward to introducing you over on our side of Maximum Impact family so they know your story and what's going on, because I believe what you're doing is so important and you have the courage. You embody courage and you understood the moment. You took advantage of the moment. You didn't let fear hold you back. And so more and more people need to know your story. They're getting a snapshot of it right here on Blaxit Global, but I know that the story goes much deeper, and I can't wait for the world to know about what you're doing and all of the people that you're going to lead, those who are interested in the expat life and how you're going to lead them with excellence, and you're going to lead them in a way where they're going to be proud of taking that step, because oftentimes we are fearful. We don't know who to trust, but I can tell by you taking that leap and the people I know who you're connected to and your friends, your social network and all of that. So you're surrounded by great people and you have a wonderful spirit. And that's what others are going to be able to see. And so again, thank you for allowing me to take a few moments and share my story with your family. That's the deal. That's your community, but it's your family. So I thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm humbled by that. Thank you so much. So y'all, that is I see y'all lighting up with these comments. Thank you so much, y'all, for tuning in and rocking with us tonight. Be sure to follow Jay, get connected to Maximum Impact, and I will see you all next Thursday. Same bat time, same bat channel. Bye.